Good evening, viewers. Welcome once again to Vital Media News. I am Rabiatu Mohammed. Let's begin with our top story. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to deliver State of Nation address on February 28. GFA mourns as Hetea Sports confirms the death of Ghanaian star Christian Atsu. And parents and students besiege the school placement center. Details of this story comes up shortly. Now to our first story. President Akufo-Addo to deliver State of Nation address on February 28. President Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo will deliver this year's State of Nation address on February 28, 2023. The president will use this opportunity to inform the nation about the state of the country and the plans he intends to implement.
The address is in line with Article 67 of the 1992 Constitution, which mandates the president to update the nation through Parliament on the state of the country. According to the business statement of the Parliament for next week, which the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, announced on Tuesday. Besides, the House would next week also launch the memorial of the 30th anniversary of parliamentary democracy under the Fourth Republic. Generally, the address will touch on various aspects of the economy, including education, security, health, and agriculture.
To our next story, Finance Minister says the government would carry out obligation to pensioner bond holders. The Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, has stated that the government will not penalize any bondholders who decides not to take part in the domestic debt exchange program. According to the terms of the long-term government paper, the government would honor its obligation to them, the minister restated.
Engaging the public under the Pensioner Bondholders Forum, a group of retired individuals started picketing the Ministry of Finance on February 6 this year to demand their exclusion from the program. Finance Minister Mr. Kenneth Ofori-Atta gave the certainty at a joint press briefing with the Pensioners Bondholders Forum in Accra on Friday. The meeting, which lasted for a few minutes, was to give the government and the pensioner bondholders a common platform to launch their discussions on the debt exchange program. The Finance Minister noted that the domestic debt exchange program was volitional for people who wanted to participate and would not be used against those who stayed away. Mr. Ofori-Atta called on citizens to remain committed as the economy faced difficulties, in the hope that all the issues would be resolved soon. Touching on the concerns of pensioner bondholders, the minister said it was binding to recognize that senior citizens were an integral part of the community and ensure that they were not pushed into unnecessary difficulties in the future. After days of protests, the government held closed-door meetings with representatives of the group where it was agreed that they would be exempted. A letter to that effect was written on Wednesday, a day before the Finance Minister briefed Parliament on the domestic debt exchange program last Thursday.
Still on that story, German legislators visit Ghana's parliament. An 8-member delegation from the Committee on Legal Affairs of the German Parliament paid a study visit to the Parliament of Ghana last Thursday.
The legislators were immersed in a joint meeting with their colleagues Ghanaian MPs on the Joint Committees on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, Judiciary Committee, Subsidiary Legislation Committee, and the Foreign Affairs Committee. Fora on transparency and accountability in the public and private sectors, the fight against corruption, human rights, and correctional facilities. Elizabeth Winkley-Meyer Becker, chairman of the Committee on Legal Affairs, led the visit, which was also aspired to create a medium for networking between the MPs from Germany and Ghana, to deepen relations between the two legislatures of both countries. The delegation was accompanied by the German ambassador to Ghana, Daniel Kroll, and other supporting staff from the Bundestag. The chairman of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, Kwame Enyimadu Entry, said Ghana has had linkage with Germany, but it was the first time a delegation from the German parliament had visited Ghana. He said in welcoming the delegation, he also touched on the importance of rule of law, accountability and open government, as well as just law and accessible and impartial justice as some of the good tenets of Ghana's democracy. Mrs. Winklemeyer Becker said the visit by her team, which had already visited the Senegalese parliament, was to allow them to have an exchange and learn from colleague MPs to discuss topics that impact everybody's life everywhere, especially the rule of law. She noted that the legal framework in Ghana was strong, but it must create space for positive, constructive development. Ms. Winklemeyer Becker added she was delighted that German and Ghana legislatures would have the opportunity for exchange programs and human rights administrative justice.
Away from that story, parents and students besieged the school placement center. Barely 24 hours after the Ghana Education Service released the placements for candidates who successfully took the 2022 BEC examination. The help centers are already saturated with calls. Hundreds of parents and students trooped to the National Center set up at the Ghana National Association of Teachers Hall, which is serving as the National Resolution Center, to have their school placement issues resolved.
Last Wednesday, the Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Dr. Eric Nkansa, at a press conference announced that out of the 547,329 candidates who sat for the last year's examination, 372,780 were placed, while 165,619 would have to do self-placement. However, candidates who acquired grade 9 in English or mathematics were not placed and therefore cannot start their secondary education next year. They will have to retake the BEC as private candidates to better their grades before they can access senior high school education. An intense education on TVET schools and science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Schools by officials from TVET encouraging students to choose TVET and STEM schools. The public relations officer of TVET service, Manche Akwete, who was at the center, also told Daily Graphic that their presence there was to explain the options available, such as TVET and STEM schools. He implied that with the TVET schools, the students would be placed based on interest and not necessarily on grades. He said that there would be career orientation at the schools done in the presence of their parents to determine the area the students would excel.
To a sad and final story. GFA mourns as Hitaya Sport confirms the death of Ghana star Christian Atsu. The Ghana Football Association has joined with several others to sympathize with the family of the late Black Star striker Christian Atsu. The Black Stars and former Chelsea and Newcastle United forward Christian Atsu was found dead on Saturday after he went missing following an earthquake that affected his apartment in Turkey.
The devastating earthquake in Turkey 12 days ago had left friends and loved ones of the player waiting for positive announcements about a miraculous escape from the catastrophe. However, when Murat Özil, the player's Turkey agent, first announced the horrible news at 5 a.m. Ghana time, it was the start of multiple confirmation of Atsu's demise. The GFA, in a social media post on Facebook Saturday morning, February 18, 2023, said, "The Ghana Football Association has received the sad news of the recovery of the body of Christian Atsu from the rumble following the earthquake that struck southern and central Turkey on Monday, February 6, 2023. We would like to express our deepest condolences to his wife and children, the family, loved ones, and the football community. May his soul rest in perfect peace."
Thanks for doing the watching, but before we go, let's look at our top stories that made our headlines. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to deliver a State of Nation address on February 28th. Parents and students besiege school placement center. And lastly, GFA mourns as Hitea Sports confirmed the death of Ghana star Christian Atsu. May your soul rest in perfect peace, Christian Atsu. May you find a perfect place in heaven. And once again, may your soul rest in perfect peace. My name is Rabiatu Mohammed. Thanks for watching, but don't forget to subscribe to Rabiatu Media News on YouTube and Facebook. Have a wonderful evening.